Let's talk about picking up stitches in Gnatty, the unexpected gnome's hat. When picking up gnome stitches, the great news is that picking up in a hat's really simple and there's pretty much no way you can get it wrong. In our example here, and we always fold the hat back so that we can be working by picking up stitches here on the outside. If we haven't folded the hat back, we're going to be working in here, and it's much harder to do than just flipping it back and getting everything nice and easy to work, because then one hand can be inside the other hat and the other hand can be holding the needle. A lot of the gnome hats have a ribbed brim and then a stockinette border, and the ribbed brim provides us a nice little marker, a landmark for us to use when picking up stitches. So if we look at the 3 stitches here, they're purl stitches on the other side, but on this side they look like knit stitches. And if you follow each column up, you will see on the top a little cap. So I like to think of reverse stockinette stitches as having sort of a cap and then a smile. So one part of the stitch will curve like this, and the other part will curve like this, and they will march across the top like this. And I call this the cap and this the smile. And I like to pick up on the cap. You can also pick up in the smile, and you can also pick the leg of a stitch up. We have a cap here, and we have a cap here, and we have a cap here. So those are all places that I can pick up. We have a smile here and here and here, and you can see they're kind of offset. The cap, if I go straight up, the cap is at the top of that column, whereas if I go straight up, the smile is here between the stitches. Being sort of slightly offset by half a stitch isn't going to make a difference in the transition between a gnome body and a gnome hat, especially because the brim flips back down for most of them. Or you can pick up the cap, you can pick up the smile, you can also pick up the leg of a stitch, which would look like this. And all 3 of those are fine options. There's really no wrong way. If I'm doing this, these legs, I'm kind of picking up one row below, so I have to be careful about that. That'll shorten the brim a little bit. But let's do it the way I've written about in the book, and that I'm going to show you here as my favorite way. We placed a stitch marker in the wrong side in order to make this a little easier, so this will be the beginning of round. This was the beginning of the round in the hat, and it will also be the beginning of round in the body. So we are going to take this as our guidepost, and we're going to pick up a stitch to the left. So this is going to mark the beginning. So we've got our marked stitch, and we're going to go to the left, and I'm going to pick up in the cap. And what you will notice is that I am not joining my yarn yet. I think that there's enough going on with picking up stitches that anytime I can separate picking up from picking up and knitting, I like to do that. Now, you'll notice that between the nice proud columns of knit stitches, we have the reverse stockinette side. We have all these purls, and so it makes it a little trickier. I like to use the fact that I'm looking at the cap of the next knit stitch column here to kind of help me know which caps to grab here. So I will grab this one, and I will grab this one. Sometimes it's a little tricky. And I will grab this one, and then I'm back up here grabbing this one. Now, if I had wandered off a little bit on a row, gone up or down, it really doesn't matter. As long as you get roughly the same number of stitches on the needle that I called for in the pattern, you can use the first round of knitting to increase a little bit or decrease a little bit. The only thing we don't want to do is somehow get the stitches on here really twisted, so that if you are knitting the next round, that the stitches are really tight and inflexible. If the stitches here on this round have been twisted or really tight and inflexible, what happens is when we stuff the gnome, this round of the body will be really tight and will pinch in. So I'm just going to continue around, picking up cap, 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 not worrying too much about getting it exactly right, because there's no wrong way to pick up stitches in a gnome. Whether you're doing magic loop or DPNs or flexi flips or any of those other methods, you're just going to keep working across. Sometimes it's a little easy to get lost in the transition from one needle to the next, so I will often make sure to then take that transition point not at the end of a set of stitches, but sort of use that transition as a way to signpost me again. So we're going to keep going across, cap, cap, cap. And once I'm around here, I should be just right around that last stitch that we had marked there. So let's pick up the cap. It won't be exactly the cap where the stitch is marked. It'll be the leg of that stitch. So we will go around. We'll take that stitch marker out, although you could leave it as a beginning of round marker for you if you'd like. In fact, you might want to do that until you've joined your yarn. When joining your yarn, just remember to give yourself a length of yarn long enough that you can easily sew this in later. And beginning at the stitch that we marked as being the beginning of round, so where we used this removable stitch marker to say, hey, pick up stitchings to the left, that left stitch is going to be our first stitch. And then we just work around as directed in pattern. And this would be the round where if you needed to decrease a stitch or two or increase a stitch or two, you would do that. If working on DPNs, I just want to caution you to make sure that you're knitting on the right side of it. It is sometimes something that happens for DPN knitters that they actually knit backwards when doing this picking up stitches for gnomes. So let me show you what I mean. With DPNs, we could be knitting here on the sort of the base of the triangle, or we could be knitting here. And the triangle is a different kind of triangle where the point of the triangle is pointing towards us. And if we picked up a knit, we could knit all the way across here and we would be knitting inside out. When you are knitting with DPNs, make sure that below your needle you can see the stockinette side of your fabric. Don't be knitting here, which will work. You will be able to knit, knit, knit right across these stitches, but you see the reverse stockinette side, and so that's how you know on this hat, at least, that this is the inside, and therefore you don't want to be knitting there. What will happen is you will get a whole row of purls facing the outside. So just remember, you want the base of the triangle to be towards you, the point to be away, and for you to see stockinette below your needle. I really hope this tip helped you. A lot of people have anxiety about picking up stitches, but with gnomes at this hat brim, it is so easy because we're picking up at a 1-to-1 ratio and there's really no wrong way to do it. You can wander off by a row or two, a stitch or two there, and wonkiness is gnominess, so don't be too concerned about getting things perfect with gnomes. Just get it good enough and have fun above all. Happy gnoming!